Okay, so let's hear it. Let's get some audience participation. Say whatever it is that you wrote down. If you said you hate it, whatever. Let's get some audience.
The challenge.
You love the challenge. Okay, I can see that.
Meeting the people.
Meeting the people.
I like it when sometimes you actually find that connection. There's something you actually find in common. It makes it so much easier.
Nice, like a little Easter egg hunt. Finding
Yeah.
something. Yes, ma'am.
Face my fears.
Face your fears.
Adding to your database.
Adding to your database. Okay.
Potential to make money.
Potential to make money. There's no right or wrong. It's just how you feel about it. So.
Understand their story.
Understand their story. Okay. So the reason why we go through this exercise is because we are getting ready to do something that's very different than what we're used to. And so our why is really important. And so for me, what I love about prospecting, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in millions and getting coaching clients or that, any business, and by the way, the great thing about all this stuff is any business you ever do from here out. When you are a better communicator, when you have better presentation skills, when you can read people's body language and personality styles, it is a beautiful thing in all aspects of your life. It has served me well. As a matter of fact, when I was learning this in real estate, and at the time I thought, I was just going to be in real estate forever, and I did HGTV, house hunters, and all that stuff. Now I see that me learning that then, it was about real estate, but boy, does it bleed into everything else. So for me, what I love about prospecting is I can pick and choose who I work with. So if any of these appeal to you, write them down. I can decide what price range I want to work in. I don't have to wait for my broke cousin who wants to buy a $50,000 mobile home. I can pick and choose. I can fire a client if they're paying my ass because I'm not so emotionally attached because it's the only deal I got and I got to keep this guy happy because it's my rent for the month. When we have unlimited sources of leads, when we have 5, 10, 15 listings, we've got 3 or 6 or 8 pending in the pipeline, we are not emotionally attached and we can let it go. I love prospecting because I can go to the restaurant and order off the menu without looking at the prices. I love prospecting because I can get done by noon what the average agent takes a whole week to do. And by noon, I love prospecting because I could go with my daughter on her field trips. I was the cool mom driving the 64.5 Mustang behind a bus, honking, and all the kids waving. I was at every field trip, every one. I love prospecting because I could take my daughter to Disney World for 10 days. And that's not cheap. I love prospecting because I can buy property. I love prospecting because it makes my business predictable, duplicatable. Doing an open house, waiting for someone to call you, doing uptime, any of that stuff is not duplicatable. But when we understand prospecting, we understand what the numbers look like, then we can predict our business. I love prospecting because the fail forward fast. The faster you prospect a lot, hung up on, and told to fuck off, and all that. By the way, if you're not getting hung up on, if you're not being told to fuck off, shame on you. It's because you're playing it safe. You're doing life easy. You're afraid. You're not taking chances. You're not taking risks. And you're not growing. So, having said all of those reasons why we love to prospect, or why I love to prospect, does that give us a little bit different of a mindset? Can I hear a couple of maybe enhanced versions of what you would like to do with the money, the time freedom? I love prospecting because when I prospect, I'm the rainmaker. And the marketplace knows that I'm the rainmaker. And when I decide to change companies, I decide what my commission split is. The last time I came into real estate, I had 3 different companies that were vying for my membership at their office. I had one RE/MAX office was offering me a $10,000 sign-on bonus. because they knew that I was a prospector. They knew that I would make it rain. They knew that the listings would come with me. So let's hear a couple of enhanced versions of this. Yes, ma'am.
I love prospecting because it allows me to travel when I want and where I want, so.
I'm with you, sister. Travel when you want, where you want, with who you want. I just spent 3 days in Sedona. I'm here playing with you guys. You know, I'll be here for the rest of the week doing a couple of other events. I pick and choose. I go where I want. It's a blast. Anybody else? We got to get a lot more engaged in why we love prospecting, or we're not going to do it. Yes, ma'am.
I feel like I'm helping people, so coming from contribution.
Awesome. And I tease people who say that because I say, well, then you can go volunteer. You can volunteer to help people.
Which is good networking.
So I think that's the twist on it, though. People are gonna look for us to help them, right? And you get both sides of that, right? It's back to that rainmaker part, right?
Well, and as we're talking about this, we're going to talk about the mindset of the people that we're talking to. We're going to talk about expires and for sale by owners and 20 other property owners. And when we can really understand we are being a contribution, ladies and gentlemen, when you're feeling icky and you're afraid to pick up the phone, or you're afraid to knock on that door, or you're afraid to walk into landlord court, there's all kinds of fun ones we're going to talk about today. It's because you're focused on you. You. What am I going to say? How do I look? How am I going to answer questions? What if I look? We're focused on us. That's where we feel icky. But when we truly do want to help others and come from a place of contribution, then we won't feel that way. When we know that the person on the other end of the phone or behind that door needs us, and if we don't knock on that door, another crappy agent is going to get a hold of them and they're going to expire again. Or the reason they are for sale by owners because they had such a bad experience before, and if we don't help them, they're going to continue thinking that realtors suck. So when people say, well, I do it because I want to help people, I want to be a contribution, awesome. Let's use that when we are reaching out to people, because that's what's going to help us to get out of our own way and leave our icky salesperson at home. Okay? So does that help us to see why we want to start prospecting? And I'm using the word prospecting because it's easier than trying to get creative. Lead generation, looking for new clients, looking for our next best client, whatever. Let's just call it what it is. Call it space prospecting. So, coachability. What do we think coachability is? And once again, this isn't a right or wrong. This is about setting up our mindset and our intention for the day. So,
being willing to do whatever it is I need to do to reach my goals. Whatever I am told to do. Hey, you have a system, you say it works, I'm going to trust you, I'm just going to do it.
good for you.
That's where I am.
Nice.
Shut the hell up and listen.
Shut the hell up and listen. I don't like you people.
So when I was doing a little bit of tennis, the person said, it feels uncomfortable, but it's okay, it's new. Follow through and it'll get comfortable.
Yeah.
So you have to break through that mindset of, it doesn't feel like I'm gonna do it.
Yes.
Do it, it will feel good. It's just new to you.
When we want to do something that we've never done, we have to do something we've never done. It's going to be uncomfortable. So write down a couple of things that you think it means to be coachable. Because a lot of us at our age, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, not used to being coached. If you've played sports, maybe you have. Most people have their children in some kind of sports. And they think it's great for the kid to get coached, but what about mom and dad? What does it really mean to be coached? When I started coaching real estate agents about 5 years ago, there was a woman, I walked into one of our offices. I worked at a place that had 18 locations, and strategically I did that because as a prospector, 95% of people say, where's your office? Where's your office? Where's your office? Who gives a shit where your office is? But they ask all the time. So I was at an office that had a lot of locations, so I could just get past that. I walk into a office on a Sunday morning, and there was a woman there, and I was there to get something signed by a client. And I told her my name. she perked up. She said, "Oh," she said, "I see your name everywhere. You have a lot of listings." I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "How do you get your listings?" And I started telling her, just like I had told 1,000 other agents over the years, and just like all the others, "Oh, can you teach me how to do it? Can I watch you do it?" People ask that, but at the end of the day, they won't follow through. They're not coachable. They say they want to learn. It's just like when people say, "Oh, I want to be a concert pianist." Well, are you willing to practice 8-10 hours a day for the next 5 years? No. Well, then you don't really want to do it. So she seemed really hungry. She was in her early 30s. She was just like me when I first got started. She had a brand new baby. She was hungry. She had no listings, nothing going on. Her name was Ashley. And I said, "Well, Ashley, I tell you what." I said, "I'm going to email you a script." I said, "When you handwrite that script 10 times in the next 24 hours and send that to me in an email, show me that you're serious, then I'll let you watch me prospect." So she did. Surprisingly enough, she actually did. And the guy that I was dating at the time, I was telling him this story. He said, "If you told me to write something 10 times, I'd have told you to go pound sand." I said, "Yeah, but you play hockey. And when you play hockey, when you go to the ring and the coach tells you to skate around the ring 10 times, what do? You say, 'Yes, sir,' and you do it." I said, "So you get coached to learn how to play hockey just for the fun of it." I said, "I coach people to learn how to make as much money as they want for as long as they want. The longer they do, the better they get at it." I said, "So for your perspective, it sounds like something that you wouldn't do, but from her perspective, it was something she wanted." So she did that. She wrote those out. I let her watch me. Long story short, she was the first person that I really coached. Hundreds had asked, but nobody was really willing to step up. And Ashley and I, she now is one of the top agents at Keller Williams in our area. She takes listings that are way higher in price than any of mine ever were. And one day we were meeting, she owed me a check, because at the time I had an arrangement with her where she paid me for a closing for a year. And she was meeting me to give me a check. And when she met with me, she said, "I was telling my husband that I needed to meet you today to give you a check." And she was basically trying to get his sympathy about it. "Well, I better go be Carrie, I better go give her some money." And she said her husband said, "Honey, if you hadn't met Cammie, you would have any money to give her." Yeah, I said, "I like him." So she was coachable because she was hungry. So let's hear some of the other things that you guys think make us coachable. Get out of your own way. Get out of your own way.
Ability to listen, learn, and grow, and be open to change.
Ability to listen, learn, and grow, and be open to change.
Don't throw up the why nots barrier. Don't throw up the barriers that keep you successful.
Please. Right? Guys, let's not waste any time with why it can't work. The others. Now, questioning for clarity is great. We want to understand why we do something. And when I'm coaching, when I'm talking about how this works, I like to explain everything. The tonality. When we start looking at scripts, in the script there's a ... which means pause. And there's reason to pause because it brings people into the conversation. So we talk about all that. So just to give you a few things that I've written down, it's not right or wrong, it's just how I feel about what coaching is. Coaching means being willing and choosing to be held accountable. Accountability is really a big one for people today. People who are, listen, only 1% of society is willing to get coached for anything, period, end of story. So you have to be in the top 1% to even consider being coached. And the people that I coach talk about that, they want the accountability. As you can see, I don't sugarcoat, I don't handhold, because it doesn't help. It didn't help me grow, so I help you grow. So I don't like being held accountable. Being open to hearing the truth. A coach tells you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So our friends will say, "Oh, it's okay, you didn't make any calls today, I'm not feeling good." "Oh, I understand you didn't make it in today, traffic was really bad." And they have all these excuses and they coddle, and they allow us to stay mediocre. Well-meaning, sure, but they are not going to help grow us. Putting your ego aside is huge for coachability. A good coach is someone who is a good student. The more I know I don't know, and the more I know I need to know. I don't know if I stole that from somewhere or I came up with it, but I have it as my quote. The more I know I don't know, the more I know I need to know. And the more I coach people, the more coaching I get. One of my coaches said it's like baby bird bites. Give me some. And I give it down, right? You get it and give it. You can't give what you don't have. And so putting your ego aside, really important to be able to put our ego aside and understand, wow, I don't know how to do this. Thank God somebody's willing to help me and teach me. Having blind faith that if it's worked for you, it'll work for me. You know, when I got into coaching, when I first got my license, just like everyone here, I got all the emails from the Brian Buffinis and just, you know, here's an email campaign, here's a Facebook ad thing, there's so many different directions you can go. And I felt like I was I felt like I was in this round room, and I was kind of looking through a door, see what they got over here, and just standing there looking through those doors, and I realized, wait a minute, I've been watching this guy do this for a year and a half. He does over 100 deals a year. So I opened that door and I walked through. And once I walked through and I went with it, and I was able to make progress. So having blind faith that the system that you're going into is going to work. Understanding that I don't know everything, and finding and listening to people who have what I want and taking advice and counsel. So finding people who've been there and done that. I think of it as the difference between a travel agent and a tour guide. A travel agent sits in a beautiful office with beautiful pictures of places that they've never been and wants to sell you on something that they don't know. They've heard it's nice, they think it's okay, you know, this is a great place to go. But a tour guide is someone who's been there and done that, and they actually go with you. And because they know how to get there, they take you by the hand and say, okay, we're going to the top of the mountain. That's where the view is the best, that's where the food is the best, that's where all the locals like to go, and we're going to take this back road and there's potholes. And I'm going to tell you where to avoid the pothole, because if you hit the pothole, you're going to break an axle. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid the potholes. And so a tour guide can take you where they've already been. And so to find someone who's done that what you're wanting to do, it just makes sense. It's about shortening the learning curve from 3 to 6 years to 3 to 6 months. Being willing to do what others won't do so you can have what others will never have. So, what qualifies as a lead? When you think about a lead, let's just throw out, what do you think a lead is?
I'm happy just to get a phone number.
Someone who has a desire to buy or sell property
This year, next year, 10 years from now?
immediately.
Immediately, like today, this week, this month?
To me, immediately, today, tomorrow, this week.
The thing is, we want to define what a lead is to us so that we know what we're looking for. If we don't really know what we're looking for, we're never going to find it. It's like when people say, I want to make more money. Okay, here's $1. You made more money, you happy? No. Okay, let's be a little more specific. So thank you for playing. You have a lead idea?
Still thinking.
Okay.
Willing and ready to buy?
Willing and ready to buy? Okay.
Within the next 30 days.
Within the next 30 days?
So with another coach, another thing we refine kind of what a lead is. Really, lead is knowing the honesty of what they want. So you can put them in the right place in the pipeline. It doesn't need to be now or tomorrow or next week, but just knowing where.
It doesn't need to be now, tomorrow, or next week, but
You need to know what it would be.
But defining how long out your lead is will define how successful you're going to be.
And then engage them at the right times.
Did you have a... So,
Can you explain that a little more?
yep, yes ma'am, I'm getting right into that. I'm just arranging my thoughts. So, when the top 3% of agents see a lead as someone who is ready, willing, and able to sign a contract in the next 3 days. Because they're looking for immediate business, as someone said. They're looking for people who want to take action now. They're not the ones that are out farming neighborhoods and doing the Popeyes and dropping off seeds and little flowers and hoping and praying and wishing and thinking somebody's going to sell in here in the next 7 years. Statistically, somebody's got to do it. So a lead, so it just really depends. If you want to be in the top 3%, then you're looking for people who want to sign a contract in the next 3 days. The sooner the better. Now, people ask me all the time, well, you know, I had a really nice conversation with this person. Should I follow up? Should I put them in my table file? Should I put them on my email campaigns? You can do all that. You can follow up with them. You can send them a birthday card. You can send them a Christmas present. You can invite them to your birthday party next year. You know, or you want to make friends, you want to make money. And we can do both at the same time. But we want to understand that a lead is someone, and look, you know, in my Mingle to Millions business, when I'm talking about business relationships and building business, I say, you know, we don't look for leads, we want to plant our seeds. Nobody wants to be a lead. I don't want to be your lead, and it's not the most positive way of looking at people as leads. I get all that. But right now, today, we're just going to have a quick conversation about leads. So, if we're looking for people who want to do something in the next 3 days, then it's probably smart to talk to people who actually own property and might have an interest in selling it, yeah? So we can go out networking, and I do something called cause marketing campaigns, which is the way that I first met Mike to start off with, and I help people use the cause that they're passionate about as a way to market themselves and their business. And that's awesome. There's all kinds of great ways to build relationships and to be seen in the marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Today's class is about getting a listing this week. Who would like to have a listing this week? Okay. So as I was sharing with Alan when I first came in, there are no more excuses. Up until this point, and I don't know who's brand new, I don't know who's been in business for 30 years, et cetera, et cetera. But as of today, you're going to learn so many places to find property owners that there's no more excuses. Sorry. No more excuses about, I don't know enough people. I don't know where to look. I don't know what to say. That stops today. So a lead is someone that we can get a contract with very quickly. Now let's talk about the 20 plus sources of sizzling hot sellers. We're going to spend some time on this. And I really encourage you, I know everybody's, your curiosity is going to get the best of you. You're going to want to go through and scan. Scan it for 10 seconds and then stay with us. Stay present in the conversation. Because as you're looking around trying to read something else, you're not going to hear what's being said. And that just doesn't make sense. So stay in the conversation as we're going through these. Now, expired and for sale by owners are by far the cream of the crop. I'm going to save those for last. So let's just flip it over and go back to number 22. Don't necessarily need to go through every single one of them, but I'll touch on as many of them as we can because there's a lot of information for us to go through here. What time is it? 9:35. Okay. If someone can let me know when it's 10:15, we'll take a little break. Okay. And I know it's getting hot in here. If you want to take jackets off and whatever. Can we find out if they can turn air on or something, or have a fan or something in here? That'd be great. Thank you. Okay. So when we're talking about property owners that might have an interest in selling, we're talking about all kinds. So over 15 years in the business, expires and for sale by owners were a day-to-day occurrence. There were other things that I found just because I was a guerrilla marketer, just because I was hungry. I was a mom and had a baby to take care of, and I was always, guys and gals, we are driving on my way here. I saw a sign for an estate sale, and I saw a sign for a yard sale. And I'm going to talk about all of these because we are driving by this stuff all the time. What do you do with it? So tax sales are something that every state has their own thing, every county, every city, they're all very different. There's a book called The 16% Solution that talks about tax sales in about every state and the different percentages and all that. I'm not overly educated in this. In the state of New Hampshire, where I hold my license, you cannot buy a property by tax sale. It's just New Hampshire doesn't have sales tax, and it's just a whole different animal in and of itself. They got property tax, but they don't have sales tax, so it's just a different animal. But I know a lot of people that buy and sell tax sales in lots of different states. They find out that, Miami, they do it on Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the month, or whatever the hell it is. Like, they've all got their own system. So just be aware that if tax sales are able to be done here, it's a great way to get business. You have to call the city and find out how that all works, but it's there. All right, number 21, dumpster diving. My fun way of saying, when you see a dumpster outside of a property, there's all kinds of things going on. Who's seen a dumpster outside of a property in the last 24 hours? So here's the deal. Sometimes grandma died and they're cleaning the house out and they're going to sell the house. Sometimes it's someone who's just bought it and they're just fixing it up for their family to move into. Okay, great. Sometimes it's a investor that's getting ready to flip it, et cetera, et cetera. But when there's a dumpster in the yard, what a great opportunity to stop, especially when you see people outside working, throwing stuff in the dumpster. So we want to open our mind to a whole bunch. We're looking for resources, relationships, and revenue. Resources, relationships, and revenue. Some of this isn't necessarily going straight for a listing. It's about all the other yummy things that will come from it. So when you stop and you just start talking to them, hey, see a dumpster here, you guys get ready to sell the property, fixing it, just start a conversation with them. You can find all kinds of things. You might find out that this guy buys and sells 50 properties a month. He does more real estate than you'll ever do in your career. No, he doesn't need a listing agent because he knows how to do it better than any real estate agent in town. But the good thing about that is he's also buying. So find out what his criteria are and add them to your buyer list. Because as you're prospecting, you are going to find property that you want to buy. So this is about, having people on both sides so you can double end deals. When you're there, you're going to meet flooring guys and roofing guys and plumbers. Don't we all need those guys in our back pocket for the different deals? You might find that just because you're being friendly and talking to people, you might find out that her sister's brother's cousin's uncle has a house that they need to sell. You don't know until you stop. So the point is that when you see a vacant property, or in this case a dumpster, it's just a great opportunity to go start a conversation. Not just for listings, not just for buyers, not just for resources. We just don't know. It just gives us another reason to talk to people. Yeah?
Yeah, you might be the first person who calls and says it's ready.
You know what? Timing is everything. Timing is so important. And when you're doing enough prospecting, the great thing about it is I've made phone calls before where if it was a non-owner occupied, we're going to talk about in a minute. Who knows what a non-owner occupied is? So it's a property that someone owns and they don't live in it, non-occupied by the owner. And calling around and asking if they had ever considered selling it. And I've had the woman say to me, my husband and I were just talking about this last night. How did you know? And I remember this one lady, I said, oh, I'm psychic. Totally freaked her out. She hung up on me. But the thing is, it's all about timing. If you throw enough shit on the wall, some of it sticks. All right? So some of it's about throwing a lot of shit, and some of it sticks. Some of it's about really intense, hot enrollment leads. So, number 20, seller first has to buy before they can sell. So, we hear about deals all the time. Oh, my seller can't list his property until he finds something to buy first. And then we all go on the MLS and we're trying to find the property for the seller and we're looking in the MLS. Listen, if you basically have a ready, willing, and able buyer who's also gonna sell. So you've got at least 2 deals, if not 3 going on here. So if you've got a seller that says, well, you know, I need this, this, and this, and I won't list until I get that, why are we out looking for it? You know, we send our email out, and that's another one that's in here. We'll send an email, hi, I have a buyer who's looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath up to 1.2 million. Has anybody got something new coming on? Well, Mr. Buyer, I put out an email. I'm working really hard for you. No, you're not. Look in your tax records and find those properties. When you call properties that meet his criteria, best case scenario, you actually find the house that he wants. He actually goes to it, puts it under contract. Now he lists his house. You double end over here and you list his property. Worst case scenario, maybe he doesn't want that house. I find out what to sell so you can list it. Or worst case, I don't answer. But the fact is when you're calling around, you're looking for resources, relationships, and revenue. So because you are on the hunt and you are making phone calls or door knocking or whatever, and look, you can send your emails and you can send your letters. We all do it. You know, people always want to be sending a letter, but while you're sending a letter, I cannot tell you how many times I've sat at a kitchen table, stacked the letters, postcards, all the shit on the table, all these agents that send them letters, and I'm sitting there signing up the listing contract. I remember one guy, just a ton of letters, and I actually took them with me. I had them at one point, back when I did this class a lot, I actually carried these letters around with me. And one of the letters, the headshot of the agent, this guy had a beard like ZZ Top, and his tagline was, the biggest beard in real estate. I cannot even make that up. I cannot make that up. So I bring it back to my office, and I'm laughing about it, and I show it to the manager, and the manager says, oh, that guy is well known. People seek him out. That's great marketing for him. He says in his smart ass tone, maybe you should try it. And I said, well, considering I'm the one that took the listing and his beard's just on a piece of paper over there, I said, I think I'll stick with what my tactics are. Thank you very much. I don't need to grow a beard. He just...
I had a good friend that was bald, somebody, I don't know if anybody in here, y'all too young, Frank Murphy, that was in the old days, and he had, you know, the horseshoe hair,
Yeah.
bald, Italian guy. He goes, got my new card, showed it to me, I'm going, that's great. Shows the back of his head, can't wait to meet you.
Oh. Interesting what people do. 1031 tax exchange. Who knows what a 1031 tax exchange is?
I know what it is.
So,
Just don't
we
find
want to use language that makes us seem a lot smarter even than we are in the moment. Fake it till you make it. When you are talking to people who have a substantial, well, anything, any piece of land, any condo, any house can be a 1031 tax exchange. We're not here to talk about exactly what they are. Basically, when the property owner sells and is buying for a property that's higher in value, they can defer their taxes. But I've gotten listings. There was a building in my area that was a big brick apartment building, had like 24 units in it, and there was a for rent sign in the window. So we're going to talk about for rent by owners too, some of these kind of overlap. For rent sign in the window, not a real estate for rent sign like a rental agency, but cell phone number, handwritten from Walmart sign. Call the guy up and he's renting it. It's the cell phone number of the guy that owns this building. So as we're talking, I'm not looking for a rental listing. I'm just asking, hey, have you ever considered selling your building? Do you have other buildings? Do you want to add to your portfolio, or would you like to liquidate your assets? Start to use words like that. You want to sell your building? Hey, you want to buy some more property? How about actually stepping up, stepping out, stepping into a way of being memorable, meaningful, and masterful in your conversation? Have you considered liquidating that asset? Have you considered adding to your portfolio? Just different words to use. And so this gentleman was 70, 80 years old school guy. I've had a few of those who didn't know what a 1031 tax exchange was, and they're very superior in their knowledge. But when you start asking them, because he was telling me, well, actually I would like to sell it, but taxes, blah, blah, blah. So as we start having that conversation, I said, well, have you ever considered a 1031 tax exchange? And because he didn't know what it was, and because I did, and because I could have an intelligent conversation, I took the listing. We're talking about a $2 million listing. Now for you guys, that might be an apartment around here. But for where I was from, that's a very substantial property. And making a phone call, that's good stuff. Landlord court. Here's a fun one. Now, look, this is about being creative. This isn't something that I would do on a daily basis all the time, but tenants, trash, and toilets. People can get tired of that. And if you happen to be at landlord court, and you happen to be hearing the landlord going at it with the tenant, when they come off the stage, as it were, and you say to the landlord, listen, I couldn't help but hear your conversation, the whole courtroom could hear your conversation. I'm a real estate consultant. Have you considered relinquishing yourself of that albatross that's around your neck? What a great time to get a hold of somebody. Timing is everything. Timing is everything. Some landlords have been through the same shit at the same building for 10, 20 years, and you catch them at the right time, and they just want to get rid of everything.
Did you go to the court and sit in
Yeah.
courtrooms?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, you know, every state, every city's different. Some of them have landlord court a certain day of the month. Some, you know, you just have to find out how yours is, but yeah, you can go in, it's public. You sit there, when you hear something like that going on, it's about, you know, growing a set and actually being able to talk to people. I had expired, I knocked on the door for an expired. Ladies, we have an unfair advantage because we're very non-threatening, and men too for some cases, but for women, knock on the door, most anybody will open the door and a lot of times let you in. And anyways, I knocked on the door for an expired. I walked in, listed their property. When that sold, she introduced me to her sister. She said, my sister's boyfriend has a multifamily that he wants to sell. And when I went and met with Jerry, he had six. He had 6 multifamilies. And boy, talk about tenants, trash, and toilets. These places were so gross. They were, you had to wipe your feet on the way out.
Yeah.
You know, just nasty. Smoke. Every time I went in one, I had to get my clothes, my jacket cleaned. Anyway, just nasty. But you catch the landlords at the right time, you get all of them. So any questions, comments on what we're talking about at this point?
What do you do when it's that trash? Do you tell them they need to clean it up?
Not something like this. This was just a tenement building. There was no cleaning to be done. Whoever was buying it wasn't going to be moving in. You know what I mean?
So it was up to them to clean.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, if it's a single family property, it smells like happy, of course you want to say, hey,
Right.
let's clean that up. But when you're talking about just fucking trash, I mean, no. Whoever was buying it just like it was. Yes, ma'am.
So the expireds, do you go to the door and knock on it? You don't call them?
Both.
You go
It depends.
both?
Yeah.
Do you find it's better one way or the other?
2 things about that. This is a lot faster and a lot more efficient. But if you can't get them on the phone, if you don't have the phone number, and if you really, really want that listing, so I would say typing is good, better than nothing. Voice is better, this is best. Especially when you're an attractive woman and you can walk up to the door in a very non-threatening way. We'll talk about that a little bit. Like, you know, when you go to knock on the door, when you knock on it, you want to turn your body to the side. There's tiny little nuances of body language. You want to be standing there like, hi! Right? You want to be standing to the side because they're looking. It's non-threatening to look over. So little things like that will make a lot of difference. We need to know that when we're door knocking, whether we are cold calling, as it were, just knocking on doors, or if we're going to an appointment, especially if we're going to a listing appointment. When we get there, they see you pulling down the road. They see you before you even get out of the car. We need to know that we're on stage the minute we pull on that street. Our music needs to be turned down. We don't need to be opening the door and beer bottles and baby bottles are crashing out of the car and we're all flustered. Okay. But people do that, don't they? And so some hundreds of appointments get there. I've got my pen and I'm thinking to myself, I know they're watching me right now. I'm looking at the roof. I'm looking at I could give two shits about this yard. They think I'm taking notes about their property. That's right. Look how intelligent this agent is, right? You know, because they're watching you. So you're on stage the minute that you pull down the road. I digress. So, all right. So reading emails, I talked about that a little bit. Our companies are always sending out emails. You've got all the agents that, I'm looking for this type of buyer, or I'm looking for this type of a house. When your company has a lazy agent that sends out an email that says, I have a buyer who's looking for a 3-bedroom in this certain school district, blah, 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 well, then go find it. Go find it. You can call people who own a property that match that criteria, and you can let them know, my company has a ready, willing, and able buyer that's looking exactly for what you have. Now, I don't know if they're going to like your property or not. However, if the right opportunity came along, would you be interested in selling your house? So we want to be knowing that there are ready, willing, and able buyers out there, whether they are ours or somebody else's in the office. So let's go find the listing. Let's find the listing that they want to buy.
What do you say to them if they ask you if you'll cut your commission?
We're going to get to objection handling in a little bit. Great question. Hold on to it. Right now we're talking about the who. So there's the 3 secrets, strategies, skills that we all need to know. Not just real estate agents. Be really clear. Mortgage, title, home inspectors, landscapers, home stagers, infinitum, any of them, anyone in this industry can be contacting these people too. When you have a team of 4, 5, 6, 7 of you in a circle that are all doing this type of thing, to have a mortgage or title person reach out to a for sale by owner or a non-owner occupied is less threatening than a real estate agent. So when you guys work together in tandem, as I was saying the other day on the stage, one buffalo you kill one buffalo, it feeds the whole tribe. So one listing and everybody gets to eat. So we'll talk about putting together teams too. So right now we're talking about who we talk to, then we're going to talk about what to say and how to say it. Okay, real estate auctions. We want to start using our reticular activator a little bit differently. Does everybody know what a reticular activator is? When you, ladies, when you have been pregnant, have you ever noticed how all of a sudden there's baby stuff everywhere? And everybody's talking babies. And there's baby carriages and baby everywhere. It's not that all of a sudden everybody was having babies. It's that they were always there, we just didn't notice them. I notice it all the time with cars, right? The minute you get a new car, all of a sudden you see them everywhere on the road, right? So our reticular activator is simply activating that thing that starts to now notice things in a different way. So real estate auctions. If there's real estate auctions going on, let me ask you guys, why would you want to go to a real estate auction?
To meet investors.
To meet investors. So going to the real estate auctions, once again, resources, relationships, and revenue, to meet other investors, to start learning more about auctions. Maybe you would start going to auctions and buying. How about if you get there and you actually meet the auctioneer and you make a little friendly, nicey, and the auctioneer starts giving you the scoop on what's coming up? Do you think that happens? Do you think that maybe their favorite people get a little quick text before the email goes out? So real estate auctions aren't just to go and try to buy. Everybody there is a buyer of some kind. So when we find out what they like, once again, we're adding people to our list. This is way more proactive than, say, an open house. You're sitting at an open house, people come through. The majority of them are not even qualified, they're just nosy. They're just nosy. Usually at an auction, the people there are serious buyers. Yeah? So, buyers, sellers, resources, relationships. Just want to start looking at things differently. Auctions for personal property. So, I saw an estate sale sign on my way here. An estate sale, if they're selling everything inside the house, guess what's next to go? So not only can you find some fabulous fun deals, who likes to go to estate sales? Who likes yard sales? If you like them, or even if you don't, yard sales are a great place too. So the estate sale, the thing about it is, not only are they selling that property, 99% of the time if they're doing an estate sale, the house is going too. And it may already be listed and all that kind of stuff. We're not looking for reasons why it won't work. But once again, the auctioneer who is there, we don't need to have our phones out. The auctioneer that is there is also somebody that we can make friend with. So I did that when I was in New Hampshire. I was on the email list for personal auctions, and then I go and I make friends with them. And before you know it, they're your buddy. Right? So personal auctions are great for a lot of reasons. Yard sales. My daughter and I used to love to go to yard sales, so anytime we can get our family and our friends involved in our business, that's a great thing. So my daughter and I used to, on a Saturday, when she was 8, 9, 10 years old, we would just love to go to yard sales. And once we would go to one, we would kind of get on a hunt. You know, there's those days where there's 15, 20 of them all within the 3-mile radius. And we would just stop at them. So I was at a yard sale one day, and there was a table full of stuff, and there was something on the table that had to do with AA, with recovery. So I recognized it, and I was talking to the woman. We were chatting it up and having some rapport going on. And as we were talking, she said that her parents were actually getting ready to sell their house and their multifamily house. And so I actually didn't list her property, but because I stopped and I was there, I made relationship with her. I ended up selling her parents' house. I double-ended the parents' house. They have multifamily. Sold the multifamily. When they sold the single-family home, they bought a for-sale by owner that they already had to deal with. I wasn't part of that. But this couple was in their 80s. They've been married for 50-something years. They sold these properties. They moved to this lake house, and within 6 months, the wife called me and said that her husband passed away, and she needed to sell the house. So she called me, and I sold that house for her too. But the point is, it all came from stopping at a yard sale and being open to conversation with people and being able to create conversation and rapport. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I mean, like when you stop at like a yard sale and you're chit-chatting with somebody, do you like give them your card? I mean, you just kind of manage it after in the conversation, I guess.
Or do you have a script kind of for that situation?
We have different scripts for phone calls and door knocking in general. For something like that, it's a matter of just becoming very comfortable with making eye contact and chatting. In this particular case, there was something on the table. So if you guys are into sports, there's a football there, right? There's toys that your kids like and their kids like. Like at a yard sale, there's always something to start conversation. But once you start conversation, I mean, I'll just ask them, so you guys are doing yard sale, you selling the house? No, we're just cleaning out, got a lot of kid stuff. Or, yeah, we are, whatever, just starts the conversation. And let's face it, so when somebody finds out you're a real estate agent and they ask you how's the market, what do you guys normally say to answer that?
It is great.
I tell them we're behind on product, 3 or 4 months, we need more product. The sellers, market.
So let's fix that.
Okay?
How's the market? Well, it depends. Are you buying or are you selling? Because if you say it's a great market, shame on you. You just lied to somebody. Because in any market, it's great for some and it's bad for others, yes or no?
Yes.
If it's a buyer's market, it's great for buyers, it sucks for sellers, and vice versa. So let's learn how to create conversation. How's the market? Well, it depends. Are you buying or are you selling? Had this happen. I'm at a photography place. I had my camera for a real estate. I'm in there buying a wide angle lens. Told the guy I was buying it for a real estate and asking him what did he recommend, blah, blah, blah. He said, so you're in real estate? He said, how's the market? I said, it depends. Are you buying or are you selling? And at first he was a little standoffish about it. He said, well, neither one. And I said, well, you just taking a survey? You gonna write a book about it? What? Guys, see, laugh. That's the thing. Break the ice. Say something funny. It's okay. It's okay to be humorous and engaging. And then he says, well, you know, actually, we could be selling. There's a house my wife and I have been looking at. We'd like to buy it, but we can't buy it until we sell our place. Blah, 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 blah. List the property. Right? So there's no specific script for it. It's just a matter of knowing that when you're at a yard sale, there's always going to be something to talk about. Hey, I love that. Hey, you play sports? Hey, I recognize this from AA. Somebody here, you know, in recovery, like whatever. And then you start that conversation. So
With that said, when you do that, if just make sure you have a couple of dollars, and if you buy something for 25 cents, it allows you to engage more, because now you're not just a looky-loo, and they feel like you're there to actually purchase something, not just using them for.
well, the thing is, people want to talk. They want to talk. They want to tell you about their house. I've stopped at yard sales. They bring me inside and start showing me around the house. You know, take me in the backyard. You know, especially if they're elderly, they're dying to have a conversation with them. You got to be careful about that too, because you could end up being in hospice care, just going and visiting people. We don't want to just go to a listening appointment just to find out that this little old lady just wanted some company for a couple hours. So we got to pre-qualify what we're doing too. But yeah, it's about creating a conversation. So, City Hall. I have noticed properties before that have had notices on them from the town that if they were not cleaned up, or they would either become the property of the city or have huge fines. One listing I got this way was an elderly woman who was a hoarder. So, City Hall. Have you guys ever seen properties with the notice on the door? You can see from the street, you know, big yellow, or, you know, this property has been condemned, or there's a, you know, they have to clean it up or what have you. There was a guy at the City Hall. I noticed these things that called City Hall, and I made friends with this guy named Matt. And I said, hey, what do you do with these properties that you give them fines and they need to clean it up, but they're not cleaning it up? Like, what happens with that? What does the city do with that? So I'm just picking his brain, getting to know him a little bit. He said, well, it's interesting you mentioned this, because we have a house that's a hoarder situation. He said, we have sent this property notice after notice about it. And so I go look at the house. This woman had stuff from the door of the house about 20 feet out into the driveway, and about 8 feet high was just a pile of stuff. And she had become such a hoarder that she would go buy things, literally have to take a bag of hammers, throw it up on the stack, and leave it in her car. To the point where at this point she was actually in a nursing home. She couldn't take care of herself anymore. This house, I've never seen anything like it. I wish I kept the photos of it. But long story short, the son actually lived in Arizona, and he was the executor of the estate. And because I had called the town and just was asking them questions, I got hold of this, blah, 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 listing. So it doesn't hurt to actually go into the town office and get to know people in the building department, the building zone, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah?
Tammy, would the same thing, you gave me an idea, would the same thing apply to homeowners associations and finding people that had fined for something, or even behind on their HOA
Sure.
payments? Something like that?
Absolutely, why not? Now, you know, are there levels of privacy and all that? The thing about, like, if it's a house that's behind on taxes, that's public record, right? So there's public record for that. This particular guy, he's probably walking in a little bit of a gray area to tell me about this house, but it's about resources, relationships, and revenue. So it's about how to build rapport with people, be non-threatening, be able to make some chitty chat, and just have them say, oh, by the way, go check this one out.
At homeowners associations?
I'm sorry?
Is that what you're talking about at homeowners associations?
Well, so with homeowners associations, they're probably gonna be a little bit more private
Yeah.
with that, but, once again, you make enough chitty chat with them, and they say, well, you know, actually, we do have this one woman who's a year and a half behind. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, she's wanting to let you one time.
Oh, it's 10:15?
I don't know.
Okay, great. So, it may not be the best source, but you never know. And from having that conversation, now you've made a relationship, and it could be that that person it says, well, you know what, there's somebody in here that's looking to sell. Now I'm talking to you, it's good timing. So anytime we have a reason to create a conversation. So let's take just a 5-minute break, get a quick potty, and make any texting that we need to do. So 5 minutes, and we're going to get started. So be back in, please.